So I'm going to get started. So if anyone joins, we will. They'll just have to join in, and then I'll try and get them to start with the chat and to open up the chats and ask the questions. So thank you first of all for coming in and giving up your time to see what how you might want to use technology to support home working. I haven't got details specifically of the types of work that you do or the businesses that you have. So I'll try and make it as generic as possible. But please, if you have a specific question which is related to your business or to your sector, I'll be more than happy to answer that directly as well. Hi, Alex. Welcome. Alex, could you just turn on the chat, which is in the black panel? If you go across to more and click on chat. And then if you change in the chat to all panelists and attendees, and then just say hi, just to make sure that you're there, so you can ask a question, and that's where we're going to ask questions. So I'll get started. So this is, yes, the Growth Support Program. Have I just got Alex there? Yeah, thanks, Alex. Brilliant. So this is a slide at the start of all of these. I don't know if you've been part of any of these before, but as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, Boost Lancashire is refocusing its efforts to support business resilience and to help you try and get through, and help us all try and get through this unprecedented challenge for business, for all types of businesses. We are very lucky in Lancashire to have Boost Lancashire here. I mean, many other regions don't have that sort of support that's available. The Ask for Help hashtag and all of the things that are going on is really valuable. We use it in my business, use Boost and all of the different services. So I would certainly recommend, if there are any challenges or any questions or help you need, ask for help. Yeah, absolutely. They're there to help, and we've got some fantastic people. So let's get cracking. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the technology, but I also want to try and give you an overview about how you start to think about the types of tools that you might want to add to your business and the type of techniques you might want to use to help improve the way that you communicate and collaborate with your customers and with your colleagues, whether they be employees or contractors or other freelancers or whatever that they may be. So you'll be getting into the right mindset for remote working. Many of you will be used to it anyway. This might be business as usual for you if you're a sort of small business. I know I started in this very room myself. So remote working is something that I was familiar with. And so it might be the same for yourselves, but things move on, and we've got a lot more technology out there, and there's a lot more things to consider, and a lot more opportunities to do business in a remote context. So I'll talk to you a bit about the technology basics behind remote working. Obviously, if you are remote working, you'll understand them, but there might be a couple of things there that might sort of be some nuggets or triggers of information that you might want to start thinking about. I'll talk to you about the protocols around meetings, collaboration, and file management, and anything else that you might. I mean, I'm going to cover. I'm not going to cover chat because chat is more for a sort of an internal thing. But if you do want to ask questions around instant messaging and chat, I will cover that. I'll talk to you about that. I do mention that in some other in sort of the tools that are available. But file management is a big one. I think it was important to cover. And then the software tools you can use. I'll give you some examples. I'll explain what we use in our business. We've used many. And I'm happy to answer questions about the best and most appropriate ones for yourselves. And then, yeah, deal with questions and discussion at the end. So let's get cracking. First of all, who the heck am I? Yeah, I'm not someone off the street. I'm a business owner. I'm an advocate and a user of Boost, but I own a company called Blue Wren. We're a software and website company. We have 14 staff. We're 10 years old. We've grown up over those years and progressively got bigger. We were fortunate to win the Digital Business of the Year award at the Red Rose Awards this year. And our sort of reason for being, our raison d'etre, is to try and improve productivity and process. For ourselves, we've done that a lot for ourselves. We've always looked at how we as a business can do things better, more efficiently, more productively. And likewise, we've passed that on to other businesses as well. And through our systems that we produce, or our websites, are all designed around how the business or our improve their productivity and their process. Because if you can get hold of that process, if you can manage that effectively within your business, that you can create something that is repeatable, that is valuable, and that is teachable. Those three things will allow you to scale your business. If it's repeatable, if it's valuable to customers, to people who would be prepared to pay for it, and if it's teachable, so you can teach others to do it for a process, then it's very, very valuable, and you can then start to scale your business as you see fit. So these are sorts of the tools which will support that and support that growth, because you're all on, you're participants in Boost, like myself. You are ambitious business people, so you want to grow your business. And it might be in different ways, but ultimately, if you can improve the output that you create from the inputs you put in, yep, you're going to grow. That's as simple as that. Okay, so let's start by talking about the right mindset. So we've all experienced something which is quite significant in our working lives. I myself have never experienced anything like this. I'm not sure anyone else has out there. And what that does, we are social creatures, but we are also creatures of routine. We like safety. Humans love this idea of safety and security. And when you impose change that is beyond our control, we get stressed. We don't like it. And stress creates behaviors which are not healthy. Obviously, it's not healthy from a mental health perspective, but also in terms of business productivity perspective as well. So these sorts of things, these sorts of changes and challenges really put you under pressure and stress. So the first thing is to get into the right mindset. And I don't know if you've come across this. You may well have. But Simon Sinek has talked about something. He's a coach and mentor type of chap. He talks about your why. Why do you do what you do? You've got to define what you do. Why do you get up in the morning and do what you do? Why have you chosen to do this work? To do this job? And it's really important to go back to that now and just say, okay, what is my purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And then just reminding yourself of that, because ultimately all of this sort of change can throw you and can throw the way that you do your business. Turn to why you started the business in the first place. We've returned to it in our business. We've returned to our culture and to our values and said, what have we designed ourselves? Why did we start the business in the first place? And then just remind ourselves that this current situation is challenging. However, it is just a moment in time. It doesn't impact on why we started the business in the first place. And that's important. So if you get the chance, and I've just seen a question, will you get copies of the slides? Yes, you will. Go on to YouTube and have a watch of that video. I really do. I think it's 10, 15 minutes long, but it just crystallizes it really, really well. So yeah, spend some time having a look at that. Also, understand that life gets in the way. Particularly when you're communicating, you might be quite comfortable with remote working and doing video meetings and video conferences, but your customers might not be. You might be used to meeting them face to face in offices or going and meeting them in networking events. So people that you'll be in contact with in this situation will be something that is new, potentially new to them. And not everyone's home office is going to be as pristine, as organized as yours will be. Or as others might be. So have an understanding of that, especially if you're working with colleagues, freelancers, or employees. Life will get in the way. Kids are off school. You might have key workers in the family. Broadband speeds might be being hammered because everyone's on the internet. There might be pets. So these sorts of things, life gets. So you've got to understand that. But also respect how you can still remain professional in the way that you carry out your work. And sticking to a routine and a discipline is the most important thing to do, because with a routine and with a discipline, it then builds this professionalism into your working day, and then with the routine discipline, the tools will facilitate that. But first of all, you've got to have it in your mind. You've got to be set in that way. The tools will not make you more disciplined or make you more routine. They will support it. So that is really, really important, that you set yourself a routine, you focus on work life, you turn a work life off, focus on home life, but also you set a routine. You're available for a certain number of hours. So it might be, in our business, we make sure that everyone is available between 10 and 4. You can start anytime between 8 and 10 and finish anytime between 4 and 6, but everyone is on and in the business and available between 10 and 4. And that way we've got a routine and we've got a discipline that we stick to. And social isolation is a thing. Okay, you might be comfortable remote working, but there will be others that are not. There's no more networking events. I mean, yes, there are online ones, but we have these social rituals that we observe that we don't necessarily think about, but it happens. So we ask people how they are. We say, have you had a good weekend? We talk about the weather. We wish people happy birthday. All of these things are still extremely important. And if you have staff, or if you have people that you work with regularly, it's important to maintain that social network or that social interaction, even though you are working remotely, because it's really, really valuable. Because people will become isolated, and people will withdraw and things like that. And yourself, if you find yourself isolating in terms of not getting that social interaction, reach out to people. And just say, how are you? LinkedIn, great one. Messaging on LinkedIn, just to chat to people, to say, I've missed you at the networking event, or looking forward to catching up again. These sorts of things will give you keep you engaged and keep giving you the right mindset. And that's really, really valuable as you start to work through this period. So getting into the right mindset is something that then will lead you on to now, how do we adopt some tools and techniques to make my communication, my collaboration more effective in this current situation. So we'll start with the technology basics. Many of these, because you will be familiar with, however, I will go through them because there might be one or two that are sort of spring out, and you might want to think, oh, okay, I'll go back and check that for my business. So here's a bit of a checklist. So broadband speed, is it sufficient? Especially with multiple users. I mean, I was on a meeting the other day, and the guy I was on a meeting to said, oh, hang on a minute, Michael, leave me. He had to yell at his kids to get off all their devices so he could get a decent signal for us to talk through. So, is this broadband speed sufficient? Are there plans in place for when technology fails? So can you work offline? You can't go to a cafe, an internet cafe. So are you going to burn hours of lack of productivity if technology goes down? So a 4G dongle, could you get one of those, for example? Do you have a webcam and microphone? Well, I hope so. on your laptop and computer. Do your emails and contacts synchronize on your phone and on your laptop and your computer? If you have an office and you're not working in an office and have a computer, a PC at your office and a laptop, are they synchronizing? Do you know who to call if you have an IT issue, especially in this situation? And do you know when they're available? Is there a ticketing system? Is there an agreed service level? If you're sort of working on your own, you need these fallback situations, because every hour that's wasted, if you're a service business particularly, so your time is your currency. So you do need to make sure that you don't waste any of that by having a sort of obvious things that are not dealt with in place. Do you know how to use the common meeting collaboration tools? If you don't, do you need training? And have you allocated time to do that? Can you securely store documents that can be accessed anywhere? And can you share those documents and collaborate on those documents? Or are you just saving them on your laptop or on your PC? And do you understand sort of information security and data protection, data privacy rules? This is the time where people will take shortcuts. There will be laptops, there'll be kids at home having to do their homework, saying to mum or dad, can I borrow your laptop? and they'll stick a memory stick in, or they'll go onto some site and they'll start using it. Now, are you allowing that to happen? Do they have access to files? Is there sensitive data on there? Where are you storing that data? If you lost your laptop, for example, or if it broke down, can you access files from somewhere else, or access that information from somewhere else? So these are sorts of technology checklists that you may have covered already, but also there might be one or two things there that sort of spark an idea. I would also say, as another one I haven't put on, which is around password management. Password management is particularly important when we're talking about, especially taking your laptop home and you've got loads of different services, loads of different systems that you need to manage your passwords. You don't want the same password, obviously, across everything. So we use something called LastPass in our business. It's really, really powerful. It's changed our business. It's revolutionized it. But there are other password management tools. But that again, has really, really upped the security level in our business. I've noticed we've got another, have we got another one there? Helen. Helen, I think you're new. So if you could just turn on your chat, Helen. If you know where the chat is, it's on the black panel. Go down to more and click on chat, and then if you could just say hi and change it to all panelists and attendees as well, just to check that you're there. And then this will be where you could ask questions as we go, or at the end. So if you could just do that for us, Helen, I would appreciate that. Oh, sorry. Right. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation. So we've talked about technology checklist, talked about availability. When are you available? That's really important. And also responsiveness. When you set some parameters around when you would respond. And that can be a real impact on your effectiveness and productivity if you are always on. And it's a time sink. If you're responding to every email as it comes in, or you're responding to every message that comes in, you're not going to be productive. So think about how you're going to respond and set yourself a discipline, potentially turn off some of the messaging and collaboration tools to keep yourself focused, or alternatively, set some parameters around what you're going to do and stick to those. Productivity, ensure that you're measuring your productivity and being as productive as you can. A lot of those things I've just talked about are relevant to that. And then data security I've also mentioned as well before. So, okay, so there's the basics. We talked about getting your mind right. We talked about the basics of technology. Now we're going to talk about the different protocols around meetings, collaboration, and file sharing. So, meetings. Most of us will have done them face to face. We've suddenly gone online and gone, oh, actually, this could be the future. However, there are some certain disadvantages and advantages to do with meetings when you're doing them online. So these are the things you might want to consider and implement when you're doing it. Obviously, schedule in advance. I mean, that's goes without saying. All meetings are. A great scheduling tool is doodle.com. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but instead of sending loads of emails around, if you've got quite a few people to go onto the meeting, go into Doodle, create a poll. It's called a poll, where you set out options and invite people to click into that or link to that poll, and then they'll vote for the most appropriate option for the meeting. And then when you have everyone when you get a consensus on one of the times and dates, that's when you schedule the meeting. So it saves all these emails flying about. So that's a good tool. So schedule in advance. Always have a host. So if you're organizing the meeting, you're the host, and there's a huge responsibility on the host, more so here in this environment than it is in sort of day-to-day, into face-to-face meetings. A host is responsible for moving the meeting along, and the host has to make sure that they are able to make sure everyone is included. So it's really, really important to move that along. And an agenda is just as important, in fact, more important in a face-to-face meeting. Sorry, in a web meeting, video meeting, than it is in a face-to-face meeting, because the way that we interact online is it's a bit of we don't, it's not a casual conversation. We have to speak, everyone takes a turn to speak. So it can become jolted, and it can become, we can get stuck quite quickly unless you're got someone who's hosting it and an agenda to move things along, identify people to input, because it does take some getting used to. So those are really important. Something that is really good that you can have on a video meeting that you don't get on a face-to-face meeting is you can have a shared document where you can make notes in real time. We've got the chat, and that is making notes, so people can be asking questions. We could take minutes. Everyone can contribute. It's in real time, and it's actual notes. It's not an interpretation of the minutes by one person. So you can do that through the chat, or you could do that by sharing a document, either through Google Docs or OneDrive, for example, and everyone can see the notes that are going on, and they can make their own. And then they can be distributed instantly after the meeting. So it can be far more productive and beneficial and having a meeting online. Always use the webcam if you can, because you'll get an indication of visual cues on when someone wants to speak, when someone's not happy, or when someone is disengaged and not really paying attention. So the webcam is important to get that body language and those social cues. Obviously, familiarize yourself with the tool or platform in advance, and be comfortable with multiple tools. You might have a go-to tool of choice, like for Zoom, for example, but other businesses or other contacts will use something else. So be familiar with them. You don't have to use them day in, day out, but the last 7 days, I've used Zoom, I've used Microsoft Teams, I've used Google Hangouts, and I've used TeamViewer. And all of those are through a chat, online chat, and we've all used it in different ways. So they're not hard. They're supposed to be intuitive, but it's worth working and finding your way around them. And then as a host, invite participants to contribute if you can by helping them asking them to raise their hand. If you can't see them, then that's fine. But ask them to raise their hand if you can. So that's meetings. Go on to collaboration now, and this is something that's quite new. Things have been around, but in terms of collaboration, historically, we've all just done stuff by email. We've just sent out emails, so it's a one-way communication, and got emails back. And that's how we've collaborated on projects, whether that be on documents, on information, on projects. Anything where it involves multiple people, you have to then coordinate, and someone has to collect all the information and then coordinate it for you. So there's plenty more tools out there now to help and aid collaboration, and it's really valuable because it does things a lot quicker. So you can, by collaborating early, you can create something which could say create the end product far quicker, so you're more efficient and more productive, but also something more, it's more powerful because you're involving people from the outset in the process. So that collaboration enables you to create a better output at the end, so higher quality. An example for us is that proposals, we used to write business proposals or website and software proposals on Word and email them out, wait for an email response back, and then back and forth a bit. We use something now called Better Proposals, which is an online tool. We can collaborate within our business, and we create the proposal, and then we can then press it and send it to the prospect, and they can collaborate and feedback against that proposal. We can see when they've opened that proposal, and then when they're ready to go ahead, they press one button to say, yeah, approve, and then they sign up to direct debit there and then. So the efficiency is much quicker. So it's very good. In terms of the way that we deliver and develop our projects and develop our software, we collaborate online. So we use GitHub and things like that, and they're very specific to the industry that we're in. But that collaboration is really valuable because we get better output. So some other things to think about. So it's valuable and necessary. When you're sharing, share early. People are reluctant when it's new. People are reluctant. They hold things back until they think it's done. The point of collaboration is that everyone gets to input all the way through the process, and it's transparent. So don't be afraid of sharing and get it out there. So whether that be a document, whether that be a proposal, or whether that be plans or strategy, get it out there, and it's just a thought process. Decide on a protocol and the tools to use. So when I talk about protocol, it means that particularly if you're going to collaborate with someone, they understand the sort of rules of engagement. So if you're in our business, I'll give you an example for us, is that whoever initiates the collaboration, they're the author and they've got ultimate responsibility for the final product, whether that be a proposal or a piece of software or whatever. So it's their responsibility. And likewise, if they share, it's the responsibility of all of those people who are in that team to contribute and not ignore it. So little things like that, to understand who's responsible and getting that protocol right. And then once you understand that, then you can identify the tools that are going to be most appropriate. And we'll go through the tools in a sec. If you can, avoid using email to collaborate. It doesn't work. Sharing around documents, they're sort of a point in time. There's no one central point of information. It does just create confusion, and then it can also create huge time overhead, because someone has to collate all these things firing in, and they don't know what to begin. It becomes a huge headache, and as a result, people stop doing it. So avoid using email. And then sometimes, when you're collaborating, it's easier to pick up the phone and have a chat, because complexities and contentious things are not good done via the written word. Do it via the spoken word, because you can have that conversation, you can get complex issues across, but also you can deal with contentious things much easier and save people taking the wrong end of the stick. So yeah, it saves time if you use the phone sometimes. Just be aware of that. So I'm now going to talk briefly about file management, because particularly when I was starting out in the business, you start out with the best intentions of being organised, but ultimately the day job gets in the way, and you find that you adopt bad practices ultimately, and things that put your business at risk. So file management is a big one. So if you're creating files, whether they be for reports or proposals or any type of file that is relevant for that customer, then you need to store it somewhere, and you need to organize it in some way. And if we start as one-man bands, we start as small businesses, we'll store it locally. And when I say locally, we'll store it on our own laptop or our own computer. And we'll organize it really well. However, is that storage, if that computer broke, could we access it? Are they backed up? Are they secure? And the answer tends to be no, because we've not set ourselves up for that. Likewise, if it's local, can it be accessible from another device, for example? If you're out on your phone, if you are out in a different area and you need to access something, if you want to invite other people to access it and share it, can you do that? Or are you sending a fixed file via email? And then also data protection and security. So who has access to that file and that information? And how secure is it? Is it encrypted? Is it encrypted at rest? And where is it sat out there? So these are things that are, when you're starting out and when you're a small business, they're things you don't really consider or think about. I certainly didn't in my business, because it was me. I was just too busy doing the work and getting things done. And ultimately, I was exposing the business to hacks and to loss of data. Now with the GDPR penalties, you are exposing yourself if you're dealing with private data. So we'll go through some of the tools now, just to give you an overview of what you might want to think about in all of those areas. But there's some key considerations first before you go and choose one. So these are the things I recommend you think about before making a decision, because bear in mind, like I said, the tools will not solve your problems, your issues, unless you understand what they're there for and you know how to use them. So the first one is, do you know your processes? and what are your growth ambitions. So when I say, do you know your processes, you have a way of doing things ultimately, but have you written them down, and have you documented the way that, for example, you acquire a customer or you deliver the service or product that you do? Because once you can write that down and understand the steps that are involved, then you can then find the tool that will enable you to do that more efficiently and more productively. Many businesses, many big businesses will go out and say, right, we're not very productive, we need to be more efficient, we'll go and get a tool. So they'll pay for some very expensive Microsoft Dynamics database or Salesforce or whatever, and they'll use that much of it because they've not thought about their process. People will use it for 10 minutes and then they'll go, can't be bothered with this, I'll go back to how I used to do it. So they've spent a whole heap of money and spent a whole heap of time, and people have gone back to their own process. Understand your process. Even if you're a one-man band, understand how you do things, because it's really important. And then what your growth ambitions are. Are you going to be, in 5 years' time, still a small business, or are you going to be, have you got ambitions to grow? And if you have got ambitions to grow, what does that growth look like? Because when you start to choose a tool and also start to think about how much you pay for that tool, it can have big implications if you start to grow. And it doesn't mean that you can't switch tools and choose something else, but be aware that there is an overhead and there's an issue around switching as well. Integration is a big one. So if you're like us, and you'll be using multiple things, so you will have a finance system, whether that we use Xero, but some will use Sage, some will use QuickBooks, some will use Xero. So you might have a finance package, you might have a CRM. To manage your inquiries. You might have some sort of project management system. You might then obviously have your email client and your email activity, and then you have your file, your documents. So if you're adding another collaboration tool, for example, does that need to integrate with everything else? If it does, then is it easy to do? If it doesn't, then that's fine. It can work remotely. However, be aware that integration can, if you don't integrate and you get all these tools going on, be a huge overhead for you. And think about total cost of ownership. Don't just look at the headline price of £5 per person per month, because cost of ownership might be around, think about support. You have to pay for support. What if your business grows? Do you have to pay for storage? So a lot of people have usage requirement. A lot of business systems will require, a usage level. The time that you'll have to invest in understanding and learning the tool. And if you grow and grow the number of seats, what does that look like? If there's no cap, it could cost you a lot of money if you grow. And then it sort of exposes you. So think about the total cost of ownership of a system before taking the plunge. And bear in mind, free does not mean free. You're giving something away. You might be using it for free. We're using Zoom in this case, but I think Bruce fortunately has an account. But you can use Zoom for free, but they take your data. You're paying for it with your data. Facebook you can use for free, but they take your data. So you are paying for it in some way. So I don't think free is the answer necessarily. Another one is about data. So it's your data that goes into these systems, whether they're a cloud-based system or a local system or a bespoke system, your data goes in. But if you then choose to change system, get a different one, or close the business or do something, or close down the system you don't need, can you get your data out? It's your data, but is it easy to get out? One, do they charge you to access your data? Or two, what format does that data come in? I know that if you use Slack, for example, you turn off your Slack subscription, you've lost it. You can't extract that data. So is that the right tool for you if you need to get your data and it's valuable and it's required? And then support level. Think about the level, what support you might need. You will see review after review, and the biggest complaint that businesses have over particular software tools, I'm not saying specific ones, but the number one complaint is there's no support. I've got it, I don't know how to use it, and I can't get the support I need. And that is a big problem. So understand, is there support? Do you have to pay for it? What the service level is? And how easy is it to access? Because if you then adopt something that you want to use and you can't get the support, there's a waste of money and a waste of time. Microsoft used to be dreadful at support. They're much better because they recognise that was a big thing for them. So there's some considerations to consider. So then if we move on to some of the tools to look at. Now I've done my best to try and organize them or order them in from meetings through to file sharing, but there's a lot of crossover. So we'll start with, these are the sort of video conferencing, live web chat sorts of things. You've got Skype, which is free, and you can get up to, I think, 50 people. Yep, for free. So that's great, and it's video and voice. WebEx is another solution. You can have much bigger events, larger scale events for that sort of thing. And there's obviously Zoom. Now Zoom has its own issues around security, which they're tightening up, but there are flaws in it. So dealing with sensitive information, then it's probably not the tool to use. People can hijack it. However, what they would get out of value on a lot of these calls, which are just meetings, is questionable. So you've got to evaluate that. But there are many others out there. But there's some of the market leaders for video conferencing. When we talk about collaboration, Microsoft Teams, we use Teams in our business. We used to use Slack, and then we realized that we were actually paying for Teams in our Microsoft Office subscription and not using it. So we've adopted Teams, and it's great. It works really well. So it's great for collaboration because it integrates, because we use a Microsoft Office. So if you're a business that uses Microsoft Office for your applications, for your Word and your Excel spreadsheets and your PowerPoint, this is a PowerPoint presentation, then it makes sense to use Microsoft Teams because they integrate really well. So it's great for sharing documents and commenting on it. And then there's other things, other applications within it. So there's a planner, which is like Trello, not quite as good, but it's there as well. So that's a good one. There's no free tier, and it can get quite expensive as you grow, but it's a really powerful one. Facebook Workplace. Now I've not used Facebook Workplace before, but I've heard some very good reports on it. It uses the Facebook interface, so people are very comfortable. It's easy to adopt because they're familiar with Facebook. There's lots of features around Facebook that you can use. It has video calls. It is free to start with. So if you're not committed or you're not tied into some Microsoft Office, for example, or Google or Google Suite, then Facebook might be an option. It's because it's quite lightweight and easy to use. Google Hangouts. So it's sort of like the alternative to Microsoft Teams. You've got Google Hangouts. It does very similar things. However, it integrates really well with Google Suite tools. So if you're committed to that, and it's free, so that's a good one to consider. Slack. We used to use Slack, like I said. Slack is brilliant for adoption. It's dead easy to use. Now Slack is good with multiple people. So it's mainly internal messaging, but it is a good collaboration tool. But you need to have people on Slack. People have to have Slack accounts to do it, but it's dead easy to set up. It's free for small teams, and you can get things done really quickly. So in terms of software adoption, it's the easiest out there. WhatsApp as well is a good one. I know that we all use it for personal stuff. I know it's instant messaging, but it is good for sharing. It's good for voice and for video calls as well. There is a business app available on WhatsApp. I'm not too familiar with it. It's much more for small businesses, like small retail businesses, but it is available. It's free. Again, might be the thing to start with. People are familiar with it. Even if you start to communicate and exchange, collaborate on things in WhatsApp, that might be a good way to start. OneDrive. This is now we're starting to get into sort of the file sharing sorts of things. OneDrive is the Microsoft suite. You can get OneDrive as OneDrive, or you can buy the whole, you can subscribe to the whole thing. So OneDrive is online file management. It's pretty good if you're not familiar with it, but effectively it's your files in the cloud. So this is really important when you start to think about where you're saving your files. You do want them ideally in the cloud or in somewhere secure that's backed up. So if it's in the cloud, it's backed up, it's all encrypted, it's very secure, and it can be shared and it's accessible. So OneDrive is a very powerful thing a tool to adopt. And if you are tied into Office 365, you get all the suite, you get all the apps, you get your Teams, and you get OneDrive. I mean, they're taking over, and you might not be comfortable with that. However, it does give you some security around your files, and it does synchronize with your desktop. So you might be offline and work on your desktop, but as soon as you go online, it synchronizes. It starts to save back up to the cloud. So you don't have to worry about any of that. It's a bit clunky in some areas, but it works, and it gets better. It's getting better. And Google Drive, which again, like I talked about, like OneDrive, that's the alternative. There is a free tier. Again, it's online file management, integrates with Google Suite, and it will synchronize with your desktop as well. So if you're bound to G Suite, that's fine. Go with that one, absolutely. So I think that's all I have on the overview of the tools. I hope you've enjoyed or got some value from those, from that presentation. I can see, right, okay. So I'm just seeing some questions on here. So maybe we'll open it up to questions. And Sandra, have you been looking through some questions, or should you want me to go through them myself?
Yes, I've looked at a few. Richard Hurstwood said a few things, that they use Trello to map out the processes, and
great, yep.
Also jitsi.org.
Okay, brilliant.
Open source and secure. But with regard to with Helen asking that question, what would they look at now with us on Zoom? And then Richard's answered again. So I don't know what you would suggest. What are they looking at? You know, when you say about Zoom, because there's been a lot of controversy about it everywhere, hasn't there, at the moment? I see it everywhere on all social media.
Oh, well, in terms of security?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So whereby, I'll just type that in. Whereby.com is more secure. I think it's whereby.com. So yeah, Zoom has got some issues, and it is dealing with them. I wouldn't, if you're worried about security from a meeting perspective, if you're worried about people hacking in and taking your over your laptop or your PC, don't install the Zoom app. Use it online. They can't do anything that way. However, they still can hack into your webcam, and still, you know, there are instances where that has happened, and people are something video bombing or something like that. There was a good article in The Guardian at the start. In fact, if I could find it, I will share that with you, about it being some flaws. But they've got into it. They've gone and they're dealing with it. However, for example, Lancashire NHS Trust won't use Zoom for any of their meetings. So Microsoft Teams is the best one for security that we're aware of, and Whereby as well. But Microsoft Teams, the only problem with video chat in Microsoft Teams is that you can only do 4 people in video. The rest are just icons. So it isn't quite as user-friendly.
I actually heard that. Sorry. I actually heard that it was Microsoft Teams had like spread this rumor about Zoom because they want people to use them rather than Zoom. But I'm sure that Zoom have fixed everything, or you know, they won't want it.
Well, they're on it, but there are some flaws. I mean, Zoom is locked down software that they don't give access to it, so people don't know the flaws in it, so you can't see it, can't see the flaws. So
okay, so waiting rooms is a good idea in Zoom, I hear Richard saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What is that? What's the waiting rooms in Zoom?
Waiting rooms, that's in terms of where they are sat. It's like a waiting room, literally like a waiting room. You can bring people into the meeting or not.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we do. We actually do that. So.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, and Richard also said that very little about Zoom. They could listen to Michael, but it's mainly the meeting bombing. But Zoom is much more secure now. So I think I need to agree with him there as well. I agree with you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Yes, thank you, Richard.
Any other questions? Can't see any others. No?
I can't see any at the moment. No more questions. Let me tap in here. No more questions. All right. Did you see what it says there? Richard said waiting rooms are a good idea in Zoom. You have
yes, you are.
Yeah, that's what we do that at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can apply. You can ask for a password. You can set passwords as well for Zoom.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be. There's a lot of. I wouldn't say panic, but the thing about what you're doing. So, for example, what are they going to get from hacking into this? They're going to get our information. They're going to get visual of my webcam, so they can see me, and then potentially can see the shared screen. There's nothing sensitive. There's no personal data on there. So, well, there is a contact information. There will be personal data on there of an email address, but that is in the public domain anyway.
Yeah,
so yeah,
there's nothing on here that. What would they take from this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hosting. Hosting. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm just looking at the questions. Closed sections in meetings are an issue for us. Do you have a platform that offers a live CC for deaf people? I think there is. Richard, I will. Let me answer that. I think there is something. Leave that with me. I'll copy that question, and I will. Have I got Richard's email address? Okay. I think if I could have. I'll get Richard. I'll get your email address off saying. Oh, thank you. Right, Richard. I'll email you direct with that once I've found that out. Okay. And meeting etiquette, answering calls, comfort. Yes, indeed. Take it in turns. It's very important. So thank you for that. Any other questions?
Would Chris like to ask a question?
Nope. Okay, that's okay.
Well, Michael, thank you very much. I think everybody's said everything in the Zoom webinar chat. All the slides will be sent out to people. First of all, you get a feedback form sent to you, and then once we've received the feedback form, then the slides will be sent out to each individual that's been as participants on here. So if there's anything else other than that, we just want to say thank you so much to Michael from Blue Red.
Thank you. There's some future webinars. There's some coming up. I've just put them on the screen. Yes,
we've got to finding how to be you in a new way on Monday, the 20th of April. We've got effective time management on Thursday, the 23rd. Operating effectively remotely on Thursday, the 30th. That seems like long way away, but it's not really, is it? The power of positive thinking in today's business environment. That is next.
I like the sound of that one.
Yeah. So keep an eye out on the hashtag Ask for Help on the Boost Lancashire website, and you'll be updated regularly with regard to any help what's available out there. So. If you need any further support, the next steps are when you receive these slides, the Boost advisors, myself, one of them, I'm Sandra Scott, and then we've got Rachel Taylor and Enterprise for All. We've got Farna Patel. So, but thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you, and have a great day. Enjoy the weather, and I'll speak to you all soon. And I will get back in touch with you, Richard. Cheers. All right, thank you.
Everybody. Thank you.
Cheers, bye.
Bye-bye.